Hi guys, Steve here on the first week of August 2024. And about 2 weeks ago, I received an email from Social Security. It said, soon you will no longer be able to sign into your online Social Security account using your username and password. So immediately I thought, okay, this is probably a scam. I get so many scams, as I'm sure all of you do too. So I didn't throw it away. I didn't delete it. I looked at the address from where it came, and it looked like it probably was from Social Security. But again, it's never a guarantee because a lot of email addresses can be made to look like they're coming from an official site when they're not. So I just kind of set it aside, and I thought, well, I'll look into it when I have some time. I just left it in my inbox. This morning, Jim came in and said, so are you going to update your online Social Security so you can continue to get in? They're changing it, and pretty soon you won't be able to do that unless you go in and update and upgrade and do whatever you need to do to, I guess they're transitioning from doing it the way they've been doing it in the past to a new way that's apparently more secure. So I asked him, I said, well, how do you know it's legitimate? Because he got the email as well. And he said, well, the last time I was in the online account, the online Social Security account, there was a message saying that you needed to do this, that they were changing their system and you needed to log in and update your account to be able to use it in the future. So that's how he knew it was actually official. So I opened up the email again and I read it. In addition, it said you now need to create a login.gov or id.me account to be able to log in to your Social Security account. I've never heard of a login.gov or id.me, or maybe I've heard of it, but I don't have one of those accounts, so I didn't know what that was. And Jim said that, I guess for one of his other accounts, he said that he had to set up a login.gov site quite a few years ago, so he's been using it for quite a long time. And in addition to that, you have to download an Authenticator app to your phone to be able to do all of this. And I'm like, well, what's an Authenticator app? I've never heard of that at all. And right now we use, for everything online, we use two-factor authentication. And I'm sure most of you or a lot of you know what that is. But for those of you who don't, basically when you go to a website and you try to log in, before you can actually log in, just using your password and login information, they'll text you, or sometimes email, or maybe they'll even send it to your phone, but they'll send you a code, and then you have to put that code in, authenticating that it's actually you. I've been using that for years, and I think it's fantastic, because if someone's trying to get into your account, they really can't do that unless they also have your phone, which is much less likely that someone out in the world trying to break into your account is also going to have your phone with them at the same time, because the code comes to your phone and then you put it into the website that you're trying to log into. Now, apparently that's not all that secure either. I mean, it's much more secure than not having the two-factor authentication, but apparently this new way of doing it is even more secure. So, I'm all for that, but I was having such a hard time understanding. Jim was saying you need this authentication app that goes on your phone, then you use that to get into your Social Security. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, why would Social Security want to have a code on my phone from another site to be able to get into their site? And it just wasn't making any sense to me. I couldn't quite picture in my mind what they were trying to do. And I'm pretty tech savvy, but there are a lot of things that I just haven't done online. And if it's something you've never done or ever heard of before, it's kind of a new concept, and Jim was trying to explain it, but because he's done it for years and it makes total sense to him, he was just saying, well, it's this, and this. And I'm like, well, I don't understand what you're talking about. And he never could explain it to me. So I said, well, let's just go in and try to set it up, and maybe in the process of setting it up, it'll make more sense, which it did. So it turns out that there are dozens of these Authenticator apps, which again, since I hadn't even heard of an Authenticator app and didn't know exactly how it was used or why, it was still kind of like not making much sense. And so I just decided to go with the Authenticator app that Jim has been using for years. And so I decided just to go ahead and use that as well. I had to go online and to the App Store, download the Microsoft Authenticator app, get that all installed, set up a password, do everything you need to do on that. And so I had that. Then we logged into the Social Security website, and the first thing that comes up on the homepage is, this is what you need to do to be able to continue to use this website in the future. So they give you the option of setting up either the login.gov or the id.me. And apparently if you already have one of those, then you don't need to do anything. It's already taken care of. You just log in that way. But if you don't, then you need to set that up so you can log in that way in the future. So first you log in the old way, and then you transition over to the new and you set up a login. I went with login.gov and I set that up. It was pretty easy to do. And then you get to a certain point where it says, okay, what Authenticator app do you want to use? And so I had already downloaded my Authenticator app. So on the Social Security screen, there's a scanner code, the little scanner barcode or scanner code is there, and it says, hold your app in front of the scanner, scan it, and it'll just automatically, connect with your authentication app, which it did. So then the next step is to put in the code that the Authenticator app gives you. So instead of the code, I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. So instead of Social Security sending you a code like they used to do the two-factor authentication, and so instead of texting it to you, which I guess is not all that secure, instead of them sending you a code, they want you to use your authentication app that provides you with the code, and you put in that code. And I guess because the authentication app and the login.gov are synced, then they recognize. So I guess, so I was trying to figure out, it's like, well, how do they even know where that code is coming from, or if that code's good code? But I guess they synced. So they're synced together, and so they know what the code is. And this Authenticator app, what it does, it creates a new code like every 30 seconds. So it creates a code, you have 30 seconds to put it in and hit the OK button, or it's no longer good, then you have to do it again. And so you have to be really fast. And why it does that, I don't know. It's just automatically generated every 30 seconds, a new code. And so I don't quite understand the mechanics of it, but it sort of makes sense. It took us Jim actually helped me do it. I'm sure I could have figured it out on my own, but it probably would have taken a lot longer since I didn't really understand the concept of the Authenticator app. And that's kind of why I wanted to do this video, in case you're like me and never heard of an Authenticator app. If you've never heard of that, I just kind of wanted to give you at least my take and my experience and explain how it works as far as how it worked for us. And it was pretty easy. It was easy to download the app to your phone. And again, you don't have to use Microsoft or Google. There seem to be dozens of Authenticator apps. So you might want to research. I'm sure there are lots of YouTube videos out there about which Authenticator apps are the best. I'm sure there are lots of articles online. So if you're really into researching, I would research that first to find out which one you prefer, which one might work the best. Oh, and then I got to thinking about it after that, after we did it all, and it took about 15 minutes, and it took, my brain kind of exploded a couple of times trying to figure this out, and knowing that I'm actually pretty tech savvy. Jim is definitely more tech savvy than I am, but I'm still pretty tech savvy. I've been doing everything on my computer for my entire adult life since computers were first invented. I had a computer the very second year they were invented, and I've used computers in all of my jobs throughout my entire career, staying up to date on this since day one. So even though I'm old, I'm 70 years old, I have been using computers now just as long as the kids who were born with computers. And it's just, I'm sure they just picked it up a lot faster than I did. And they probably use a lot of different things than I do. And, I only use the things that I have to, and I don't use a lot of social media. And because of all the scammers, especially targeted towards seniors and retirees, I try to stay off of all of that as much as possible, other than YouTube. But we discovered years ago, before we retired, we were getting our Social Security information through the mail, and at some point we discovered that it's apparently much safer to do everything online than it is to get it through the mail. When these days mail is stolen all the time, it's much easier to steal a letter. And there's a lot of different points where they can steal a letter from Social Security and Social Security checks and things like that. So from day one, once we realized, even before we retired, that we could do this online, we switched to doing everything online, and we've been doing it online ever since. But then it occurred to me, I thought, well, a few of you have left comments in recent videos saying that you're not tech savvy at all. And I know that's true. I know a lot of seniors haven't used computers for their jobs and they didn't have the benefit of 20, 30 years experience using computers and cell phones and other online or techie things. So I know a lot of seniors feel very intimidated and they don't consider themselves very tech savvy. So my first thought was, well, if this was this difficult for me and I'm pretty tech savvy, I mean, how are seniors and retirees able to do this without a lot of help? And I can't imagine how they could do it on their own. I mean, it was pretty complicated unless you really know what you're doing. And even if you do, it seemed fairly complicated, especially if you'd never heard of like Authenticator apps, which I'd never even heard of. Then I realized probably a lot of you aren't even doing this online. You're probably still getting your Social Security information and checks and things through the mail. Maybe your checks are going directly to your bank, hopefully. Hopefully they're not going to your mailboxes. Maybe your other information is going to your mailboxes. So I don't know. I'm just curious. So if you want to share with us, if you feel comfortable sharing with us in the comments section, don't give any personal information or anything like that, or anything that might be able to help hackers or scammers access information about you. So yeah, please don't do that. If you do, if there's anything like that, I'll just delete the comments so it's not out there exposed to the world. But just share more generic things, nothing that would be identifying to anyone. And that kind of goes for all comments on this channel or any channel. You want to give as little information as possible. I think sharing this information is okay because it's helpful information that we all need to do, and or at least all of us that have Social Security access our accounts online, is something you do need to do. And the information is out there already online, on YouTube, and various places. So, but if you're not tech savvy, I am curious, how do you access online? How do you protect yourself by accessing online websites? Or do you not even do that? Maybe it is better. I mean, they say, and I don't know if it's true, but they say online is much, much more secure than mail, the old-fashioned snail mail. Apparently that's not secure at all and can be very, very dangerous and very easy way for people to grab personal information, credit card information, personal information, Social Security information, medical information. Even though online, you can also get hacked and information is stolen and leaked all the time. Nothing these days is secure anymore, but I guess some things are more secure than others. At least that's what they say, if you can believe what everybody says. So I don't know. This is just my experience and Jim's experience, and I just thought I would share with you. Luckily, Jim had done this before. He just didn't mention it until just today, and he did his, I think, a couple of weeks ago when he first got the email, and I guess he realized he knows me, and when I get things, I assume everything's a scam. So he probably figured I just deleted it, but because it was Social Security, I didn't delete it, but I just set it aside, and then I ended up forgetting about it. So I'm glad he reminded me. So thank you, Jim. But again, we're not experts at this. We're just sharing our experience. So your experience may be totally different, and definitely contact experts if you need help doing this. I just wanted to give you a little heads up in case you weren't aware of this like I wasn't. So anyway, hopefully this was helpful. Let me know down in the comments, and I'll hope to see you all next time.